The street is divided when it comes to India's story because, sure, you can talk about the demographic dividend, given the population, the youth of it, and so on. But at the same time, if you're really drilling down to the use cases of AI, the humanoid robotics and physical AI, it could actually sort of replace or take away that demographic dividend going for Indian markets. So do you think that it's a little too mature for that kind of conversation at this point, or do you see a story there?
Well, the Indian story has always been wonderful for the reasons that you mentioned, and also for another reason you didn't mention, which is it's got some of the highest quality corporates anywhere around our part of the world. There are some very, very, very strong management teams executing there. So I think that will not finish. That will persist. Then it's a matter of which business models are going to work and which business models aren't going to work. And I think a number of us feel a little bit insecure about the role that AI can play in action, because the story's always been great, but getting things done in India isn't always straightforward. Second, valuation, because it started to look quite expensive, and then really enjoying the quality of the corporate sector.
We need to take into account or worry about U.S. tariffs on India, because that doesn't seem to have been resolved.
Hasn't been resolved. I think it's certainly a concern, but of all of the markets that I think around the region which rely on exports, India is nowhere near the top of the list. And I used to live in India, and even when I lived in India, most of the things that my kids owned were made in China. So I think that the sort of, the world's exposure to the Indian manufacturing sector is not the biggest thing to worry about there.
Okay.
President Trump's shock 50% tariffs on India's Russian oil imports were meant to push New Delhi away from Moscow. Instead, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is pledging to deepen ties with Vladimir Putin. Here they are. The movers' frozen US-India defense deals stirred nationalist outrage and set the stage for a dramatic geopolitical shakeup that could bring India closer to China and further from Washington. For more, I'm joined in the studio, Professor Tim Harcourt from UTS, host of the Airport Economist channel here on Ticker as well. Good to see you.
Good to be here. Good to be in the studio.
Yeah, absolutely. This has always felt like it would eventually happen, where India had to make a choice. And now President Trump, in order to try and get Vladimir Putin to come to the table, is making India do what Biden didn't.
It's extraordinary, isn't it? Because, I mean, you've got to remember, India's always had this non-aligned movement under the days of Indira Gandhi, and even under the Nehru-Gandhi days, they were close to the Soviet Union, and they always had this non-aligned sort of view after independence. But for a long time, they have had, better deals with, or better relationships with the West as a counter to China. But because President Trump's tried to push Putin's hand, he sort of pushed India with it closer to China, which is a disturbing outcome for the world.
The relations are testing new lows. What's going on, with the bilateral relations between the two?
So as with everything Trump, we have to get inside his head and think what he's thinking. So, India has been moving closer to the U.S. since the Clinton administration, and, it was seen as an increasingly important power in geopolitics. Now, with a few tweets or truths, this has completely been upended. Now, why is Donald Trump doing that? There are, a couple of reasons I can think of. One is that he got very annoyed with Prime Minister Modi when Trump tried to take credit for bringing the India